You walk into a room and something feels off. No one has said a word yet. No argument is happening. No tension is visible. But something in you already knows. You can feel it in the way two people are sitting slightly farther apart than usual. In the way someone picked up their phone a half second too fast when you walked in. And you are right. You are almost always right. Most people would call this paranoia. Some would call it anxiety, oversensitivity, reading too much into things. But what if it is not any of those things? What if what you carry is not a disorder, but an intelligence? One that was built, sign by sign, from a life that required you to pay attention. Psychologists and trauma researchers have begun using a term for this pattern: traumatic intelligence. It describes the perceptual sharpness, the pattern recognition, the emotional radar that develops in people who grew up in environments where paying close attention was not optional. It was survival. This is a genuine cognitive adaptation, a mind that restructured itself around the need to read what others were not saying. And if any part of what you just heard felt familiar, here are 7 signs that you carry it. The first sign is that you read rooms before anyone speaks. You walk into a space, a classroom, a kitchen, an office, a family dinner, and before a single word is exchanged, you already have a read on what is happening. Not a guess, a read. You notice who is not making eye contact with whom. You notice the quality of the silence, whether it is comfortable or loaded. You notice that someone laughed a little too quickly at something that was not that funny. Most people move through a room and register what is obvious. You register what is underneath the obvious. This did not happen by accident. Think back to being 7 or 8 years old. Think about the sound of a front door opening. In some homes, the sound of that door told you everything you needed to know about the next several hours. The weight of the footsteps, the pause before someone spoke, the way a bag was set down, placed carefully, or dropped. That skill never left you. It just moved into every room you have walked into since. The second sign is that you notice micro changes in tone and expression that most people never register. Someone says they are fine, and you hear it. The word itself, the surface of it. But underneath that, you catch something else. A flatness in their voice where warmth usually lives. A half-second delay before the answer came. The way their smile arrived slightly too late to feel automatic. You did not go looking for any of that. Your nervous system collected it before you had a conscious thought. Researchers who study early environment adaptation describe this as hypervigilant processing. It is the reason you know someone is upset before they know how to say it. That is not imagination. That is a nervous system that learned to read the frequency underneath the words. The third sign is that you predict reactions before they happen. Before you send the message, you have already played out 3 possible responses. Before you say the thing in the meeting, you have already mapped how each person in the room is likely to receive it. Before you walk into a difficult conversation, you have already run it twice in your head, including the version where it goes wrong. People who did not grow up needing this skill often call it catastrophizing. But there is a difference between catastrophizing and scenario modeling. Catastrophizing is fear without data. What you do is pattern recognition with a very long memory. You have been tracking how people behave under pressure, when they feel threatened, when they are hiding something, for most of your life. And your predictions are accurate far more often than anyone gives you credit for. The fourth sign is that you feel exhausted in environments that are objectively safe. You are at a dinner with people who genuinely like you. Nothing is wrong. No one is upset. The conversation is easy. And yet, somewhere around the 90-minute mark, you feel a familiar drain beginning. Not boredom, not social anxiety exactly, because your radar does not check the environment once and conclude it is safe. It keeps checking. Every few minutes, without your permission, it scans the room again, even when nothing has. This is the cost of traumatic intelligence that no one talks about. The sharpness does not switch off when the environment becomes safe. It keeps running the same protective loop it always has, because it was never taught that safe environments exist. You are not exhausted because you are weak. You are exhausted because you are running a high-resolution system in a low-threat environment, and your nervous system has not yet learned it is allowed to idle. The fifth sign is that you were called paranoid for noticing things that turned out to be true. You said something felt off. You were told you were being too sensitive. You named what you were seeing: the distance, the shift, the thing no one was saying, and the people around you told you that you were imagining it. And then, weeks or months later, it turned out you were right. Someone was lying. The relationship was ending before anyone admitted it. The tension you felt in that room was real. But by the time the truth came out, no one connected it back to what you had said. They just moved on. And you were left holding the strange experience of having been accurate and dismissed at the same time. Being called paranoid for noticing what was real is one of the most quietly damaging experiences a perceptive person can have, because it teaches you to distrust your own data. You are not paranoid. You were perceptive in environments that punished perception. And that is a very different thing. The sixth sign is that you learned to become invisible when the environment felt unsafe. You got very good at not taking up too much space, at reading the room and adjusting. Your volume, your presence, your emotional expression, all to match what the environment seemed to need. Not because you were dishonest, because visibility in certain environments had a cost. So you made yourself smaller. You watched more than you spoke. You became fluent in the language of other people's emotional states because your own comfort often depended on managing them. Developmental psychology describes this pattern as adaptive self-concealment. What looked like shyness from the outside was something else entirely. It was intelligence undercover. The seventh sign is that you carry an awareness others never had to develop. You notice the person at the edge of the group who is smiling but not quite present. You sense when a friendship is shifting before either person has said anything out loud. You pick up on the things someone almost said, the sentence that stopped one word too early. This is not common. Most people move through their social world reading only what is on the surface. You read what is underneath it. And you develop this not because you were born different, but because your early environment made this level of attention necessary. You are not cold. You are not broken. You are not someone who is permanently damaged by what you lived through. You are someone whose mind built something extraordinary out of difficult material. The person who reads a room in 6 seconds. They looked oversensitive. The one who caught the shift in tone before it became an argument. They looked paranoid. The one who made themselves quiet and small to keep the peace. They looked withdrawn. The one who ran every scenario before the conversation started. They looked anxious. But each of those responses had an origin. They were built by a mind that learned, in a home or a classroom or a relationship, that attention was the price of safety. That is not damage. That is adaptation. Traumatic intelligence is real, and the most important shift is not learning to turn it off. It is learning to choose when to use it, to trust a quiet room without scanning it for hidden tension, to give your nervous system, just occasionally, the experience of resting without consequence. You built this intelligence in an environment that required it. You get to decide what you do with it now. If you walked into this video already knowing that something in you was sharper than average, but never had a name for it, you just found one. And if this felt less like learning and more like remembering, share it with the person who always knew something was off before anyone else did. They have probably been waiting a long time for someone to say it out loud.